Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, whatever part of the world you're listening to our podcast and video blog. Today is October the 13th. Imagine that we're already midway into the month of October. Crazy. But with that said, we gotta keep on going. So, I thought I'd discuss a continuation of my previous podcast regarding the American prisoner of war in Ukraine, Mr. Gonzalo Lira. I understand, based off of my research, that he's a US-born Hispanic American with Chilean background, but as y'all know, every American came from somewhere and originated from whatever part of the world there is. So it really doesn't, remove his, nationality, not his national connection to the U.S. just because he's of Hispanic American background. Yes, he might know some Spanish. Who cares? Everybody else pretty much speaks foreign language in the country anyway, so that doesn't really make him any difference than anybody else in America. But yet, he's still missing in action, MIA. I haven't seen any of his posts yet on YouTube or even have heard from any of his contacts regarding his whereabouts. So it's early in the morning here. It's almost 2:34, and I'm just kind of tired and reading some materials and doing some research pertaining to Mr. Gonzalo Lira's, overall situation. And like I said, I wasn't able to find anything on him since he last posted his video on his channel a couple months ago. So I thought I'd reflect on it, even though it's early in the morning and I'm a bit, tired. But, I can imagine the family and friends of Mr. Lira who care deeply about his, safety and well-being. I can't even imagine, the kind of emotional roller coaster they're probably having to deal with, since, Mr. Lira is nowhere to be found or to connect with. So with that said, I thought I'd just go ahead and stick it out and, do this podcast to help his family out and give him a voice, because he did try his very best to, share his voice with the rest of the world, to inform the public about things that he noticed that weren't, conducive to democracy in the Ukrainian government system. So, as you all know, Ukraine is not a NATO member country. And yes, they are surrounded by NATO member countries. And so what I find troubling is that NATO member countries doesn't seem to care regarding the release of the citizen of an ally country imprisoned in a non-NATO member country. Okay, think about it. If your ally, a citizen of your ally country, is being held as a prisoner of war in a non-NATO member country, wouldn't you want to know why that is? Why is that person sitting in a jail of a country that is currently engaged in a war? Okay, yet no NATO member country seemed to raise that red flag. No one's, asking questions, objecting to this kind of situation. I mean, yeah, it is kind of strange, because typically when a citizen of a NATO member country is kept in jail, especially as a prisoner of war, they would, you know, do everything and anything in their power to help that citizen out, to get the citizen to be released and work some sort of, prisoner exchange program or whatever. They would, definitely figure out a way to get that citizen out of that foreign prison, and I was like, okay, let me read more into this, even though I'm not an expert of, NATO policy, or I've got no experience regarding military, decision making. I did grow up in a city where NATO was, stationed, and it was basically the headquarters of NATO. And I remember when I was in high school, I even played with some NATO military officers. We played soccer together on the base, and it was a pretty fun and engaging interaction with foreign military soldiers within the NATO system. So I have a very fond and wonderful memory of my engagement playing soccer with NATO soldiers. But with that said, I'm just trying to justify why is it that NATO member countries are not raising this concern with Ukraine. They're not trying to pressure Ukraine to release a prisoner of war who's not even a combatant. He's not a military combatant. He just basically spoke out based on his review, based on his intellectual and academic background regarding certain managerial flaws and anti-democratic, iron fists and mismanagement of a conflict, a war conflict in Ukraine. Anybody can say that. Anybody can talk about, what they agree or don't agree regarding a war conflict. That's a part of our freedom as humans. That's a part of our rights, is to voice our concerns and opinions. I mean, that's just the reality of free speech. So I thought I'd review what's going on with the NATO defense spending in 2023, since I got to look into, who's benefiting from all of this. And so I went and found a European economic report. It's called econpoll.eu. It's an economic policy briefing from the European Union. So regarding defense spending in the year 2023, NATO member states agreed at the summit in 2014. This was a year, almost 10 years ago, to spend or to move towards spending 2% of GDP on defense. In 2023, this year, only 11% of the 30 countries will reach that goal. Okay, so that's one issue that I want to raise up. Okay, because NATO is supposed to be, united. They're supposed to be looking out for each other. Okay, but when a citizen of a member ally country is kept in a non-NATO member jail, no one's voicing their concern, which I find that really strange. Overall defense spending of NATO plus candidate Sweden will top 1.2 trillion euros, or 2.6% of total GDP. However, the high percentage is due to U.S. spending. So U.S. is the top spender, the deep pocket funding NATO, yet our citizen who is sitting in a foreign non-NATO member jail as a prisoner of war for speaking his mind isn't being talked about. No one's discussing Mr. Gonzalo Lira's well-being. Okay, why is that? I mean, strange. So U.S. spending alone accounts for more than 2/3 of the total of that 1.2 trillion. So on top of our direct, aid to Ukraine, we're also funding NATO, and that funds, 2/3 of that funds is coming from American taxpayers, the U.S. taxpayers. So if majority of the wealth within NATO countries under military spending to keep NATO going is coming from the U.S., why are they not trying to convince Ukraine to release an American prisoner of war who just basically posted his opinion on his YouTube channel? Okay, I mean, don't y'all find that kind of strange when someone who just basically wanted to review a government that he has knowledge about? I mean, out of all the politicians in the US that have subject matter expertise in the region and in Ukraine, okay, Mr. Gonzalo Lira, is probably, at the top 10. He's probably has a lot of subject matter expertise on Ukraine. Yet, he's in a Ukrainian jail as a prisoner of war. Okay, so without the United States, the combined defense spending of the remaining members would only reach 1.8% of GDP. The shortfall to the 2% target amounts to more than 50 billion euros. Okay. As you all know, I'm a former federal government financial analyst in the U.S. government. I've disclosed this previously. Okay, so I'm just basically assessing the financial and accounting records and how the audits was, developed by countries that are benefiting from the financial and, the policy to keep NATO afloat, to keep it going and ready for action if something were to happen. But I find it extremely troubling when the largest contributor member country and the citizen, I don't care if he's an American or not an American, he could be, easily a German prisoner of war or, a Hungarian prisoner of war. It matters nothing to me what his nationality is, as long as he's a citizen of a member country within the alliance. Then I would want to know why that person will be sitting in a jail as a prisoner of war for voicing their concerns. So the largest shortfall in 2023 will be posted in euros by Germany, which is at 17 billion, Canada 14 billion, Spain 12 billion, Italy 10 billion. And it's going to be the largest surpluses will occur I should say, and plus the largest surpluses will occur in euros in the US, 330 billion, and Poland 17 billion, and the UK 7 billion. Okay. Okay. So something is just not, making a whole lot of sense here. So if Germany, Canada, Spain, Italy won't meet their commitment in terms of funding NATO, and the U.S. will have to shell out more, U.S., Poland, and U.K. more, then don't you think NATO member countries should question why U.S. taxpayer, a citizen who's just done virtually nothing but just voices concern, is sitting in a Ukrainian jail? Okay, something to think about. And to me, I know nothing, personally about Mr. Gonzalo Lira. I'm not here to say he's, this guardian angel that is flawless. He's got no, issues regarding his character. I know nothing about him. Okay. He could be, the worst person there is. I don't know. All I'm saying is, whatever is going on, he has his right as a human to voice his concern and to basically review a government system. That's within his, right as a human being. Okay. Now, with that said, if what he was saying is of value, if it would be a game changer regarding the war, then that's a completely different can of worms. Meaning that he's knows something that the rest of the Western world or even Americans know nothing about in decision, and also our decision makers in America doesn't know about. So who will benefit from Mr. Lira's silence? Okay. Who will benefit, if the war continues on? Who will benefit, in Europe, if, member countries throughout Europe are struggling to support NATO, to support their own citizens, and now they're having to support a non-NATO member country and their citizens? Who's really benefiting? How come no one's asking these questions? I'm really, I'm baffled why people aren't even asking these fairly simple, basic questions. I don't even have a lot of followers. I mean, so why can't, any of these major TV channels, broadcasting stations, press, ask these pretty basic questions? Are they being silenced? I know in many ways I'm starting to feel that I'm being silenced, because I don't think I'm getting through to the mainstream population in the US, but that's okay. I've got no problem with that. As long as I know that I'm being transparent, and I'm not trying to screw anyone, I'm not trying to cheat people, I'm okay with that. They can silence me all they want. Okay. I'm used to that. I'm used to being the underdog. Underdog is basically my second name anyway. So I'm okay with that. But what I'm not okay with is when there's an ongoing war where people's lives are being snuffed out and corruption and embezzling money is becoming the norm. Then I have a major problem with that. Even though who am I? I'm nobody, right? I mean, the U.S. media is making sure that nobody knows my name, and I mean that's just the reality of things. There are people that are definitely making sure that I'm singled out, stonewalled, and basically chastised for being transparent, for being honest with people. Okay, that's okay. I'm all right with that. I mean, they didn't even cover my U.S. Senate campaign, so I'm no stranger to being singled out. But I will not stop fighting for those that are oppressed, those that are victimized, and those that have been bamboozled, because I've got a lot of experience in those areas personally. With that said, my name is Mina. I'm the concept author of Face Economics, the utilization of the social media platform in economic development. I'm all about, free speech, fairness, transparency, and being truthful to people, and looking out for the best interests of other people, of humanity worldwide. I dedicated my life to helping others. I'm a former U.S. Peace Corps representative, volunteer, and I've given up a lot to serve others and to, extend a helping hand. And I'm fairly confident that even with that little service, with that, minute, activity with my life to help others, I feel okay. I feel 100%, fine with my decisions to help others. I don't necessarily have to become a multi-billionaire. I mean, yes, I do business. I do other things to create, some sort of income, but my priority is not about, looking out for my best interests all the time. Okay. And I hope that whoever's listening to this podcast would understand that I'm doing this podcast at 3 o'clock in the morning because I'm trying to feel and basically, put myself in the shoes of Mr. Gonzalo Lira's family and his friends that care about him. I just heard recently that he's also got two infant children, and they are not with their father. So I feel for them. I seriously feel for that family, Mr. Gonzalo's family, because he's done absolutely nothing wrong to deserve to be thrown in jail for speaking out. I mean, Ukraine claims to want to become a democratic society. Okay, they weren't a democratic society before, I guess. If they would do something like that with people or to people that are expressing dissatisfaction or reviewing their policy, they're reviewing their overall capacity and kind of opining on things that were questionable in the way that they operate. Okay, folks. My name again is Mina. I'm the Face Economics author of this concept that everybody on this planet is currently utilizing social media. Okay, the social media platform. Doesn't matter what organization you're with or is utilizing. The overall platform of social media is pretty powerful, and it's transcends border. That is if you're not being silenced by the powerful and the power abusers. There's a lot of power abusers on this planet, and unfortunately, they're the ones that are calling the shots most of the time. And I've got no problem with authority. I've got no problem with people keeping people, in line, as long as it's, within a fair, legal, and humanly, acceptable. Okay. The rule of law is important in any society, but when you abuse your power, then that's basically your way of forfeiting that power and authority that has been bestowed upon you and that trust bestowed upon you by the population. Okay, so it's really early in the morning. I'm sorry if I'm, trying to beat a dead horse or wouldn't stop talking about this situation with Mr. Gonzalo Lura. I just feel for the family. I would think that our government officials, especially in Congress, Senate, or even the White House, would feel for his family, Mr. Gonzalo Lura's family. But I don't know what's going on, why he's still not being released by the Ukrainian government, in spite of all the billions of dollars that was provided to them. Okay, folks, thank you for listening. It is truly an honor, a privilege, and I'm always excited to basically speak with you. It's just that it's early in the morning and I'm a bit tired. But thank you for listening to this podcast. I look forward to connecting with you again. Take care. Bye-bye.